Well, this is our first relationship rehab segment, and I've got a guest, Kendall Grayson. She's a professional life advisor, and she's going to join us often because she's got great tips when it comes to relationships, and we're talking really any relationships. And today, in the job market and economy, if there's a relationship issue with a coworker or a boss, then that can be a major problem. So you've got advice for us today if you're having any sort of issues regarding your colleagues at work. What are some, what do you do?
Well, I would say the first thing is you need to make sure that you like your job. It's really important when you're choosing a career or you're choosing a job that it's a place that you're going to be happy. And to be happy, you need to make sure that you like the people that you work with.
True. But you first like your job, then like the people, or do you think that the people really have that large of an impact on the position?
I actually think that's a huge part of choosing what profession you're going to go into and what job you're going to take. Actually, a lot of businesses are giving what's called a career personality test before they hire people to make sure that they fit well with the other employees. And if they don't give you a test, I suggest that people, when they go in for an interview, kind of take their own inventory and to decide, are these people that I could see myself hanging out with after work? Are these people that I want to know more about and that I want to hang out with? Because you're going to be with them every day.
Isn't that true? You end up hanging out with your coworkers almost more than you do your own family sometimes, depending on the place that you work. Any more words of advice? I know you've got plenty to talk about. We've got some more advice later in the show, but I would say, if it's your boss especially, I'm sure people have a hard time approaching that topic.
It's very difficult. If you're in a job and you're experiencing difficulty, there are several things that you can do to try to work through that relational difficulty. My advice to people is not that far away from what I tell children who are dealing with a bully. There are several steps that I suggest that you take when you're dealing with that. If it's a boss, it's definitely harder.
Okay, well, we'll pick up where we left off then, and we'll talk about those steps a little bit later in the show. All right, Relationship Rehab. It's a new segment that we're going to be doing on Fridays. Why? Because probably all of us have some sort of relationship that could use rehab from time to time, whether it's, at home, work, whatever. And today we're talking about work.
Yes.
Earlier, we got onto the topic of what do you do specifically if you have an issue with your boss at work?
Don't put it on Facebook.
Step one.
Step one. I would also say that my advice is pretty much the same, whether it be your boss or whether it be a coworker. The first thing that I would say is decide, is it something that you could just ignore? That you can put it away? Is it annoying? Is it silly? Is it frustrating? Or is it something that you can't ignore? If it's something that you can't ignore, if it's harassment or if it's causing you depression or anxiety, then the next step is to talk to that person. A lot of people come to me and they haven't even talked to them yet.
Well, I would think that's probably a very uncomfortable situation for both of the parties.
Definitely. When you're doing it, it's important to use I statements and at the same time to set firm boundaries. But most of the time, if you talk to someone in a pleasant adult way, they're going to be understanding. If they're not understanding, then the next step is to go to the superior. If it's your boss, there is no superior. If they don't listen to you and they won't make any changes, then you may be looking at a career change.
Right. Well, for some people, if you go in and try to talk to your boss, you may be looking at a career change. That's probably the biggest reason that people get nervous about approaching them. They're afraid they're going to lose their jobs sometimes.
Exactly.
But you know what? Maybe it's best for you. Maybe it's not the career for you.
It is. If you're in a job where you're not valued or you're having relational issues on a daily basis, it can lead to depression and anxiety, as well as eating disorders.
Oh my goodness. Well, you mentioned that there are now career tests that you can take online. There's a free one that I've actually pulled up. I tweeted about it, and then I may take it a little bit later. But if you have any questions, we ask you to visit Kendall's Facebook page. And what you can do is look her up, and maybe you do have a personal question and she could answer it for you. Maybe here on the show. We don't have to say any names, but that'll help us go to the topics that people can relate to and that they really want to hear about.